Hello and welcome to Just One More Watch. Welcome today to a rather last minute unboxing style video on the new hotly anticipated model by Zelos, the Spearfish. The reason it's a bit last minute is FedEx just delivered them. I mean literally about 10 minutes ago. I had the t-shirt ironed and ready for it and everything. They shipped late January, but they've been stuck floating around the ether for a couple of weeks. I phoned them this morning, they said no, sorry, not today. I shouted at them, maybe that did the trick, because the problem with Zelos is they sell out so fast. If I'd released this video tomorrow, it would have been a bit of a dead rubber. And the reason why the Zelos is such a hotly anticipated model is because it's like a kind of swordfish premium and features a brand new Swiss movement by La Joux Perret. First time I've seen it in a Zelos, first time I've seen it anywhere, so I'm really keen to have a look at this one. You saw the pop-up. This video is sponsored by Zelos. I've no idea what watches they've sent me. I don't know what colorway, what bezel combination, so this is going to be as much fun for me as it is for you. Hopefully, let's flip the camera and get on with it. Alright, so you saw the size of the FedEx package. They sent me two. I get to keep one, I have to return the other one. So again, added interest to see what's actually in the package. While I'm prepping these, let's have a look at the 6 different versions. So from left to right, it's Frost, Meteorite, Copper, Vintage Green, Burnt Orange and Forged Carbon. Different prices though across the board today. The Forged Carbon 700, the Meteorite is 750, the other 4 versions are 650. So this is definitely one of Zelos' most expensive three-handers. But then I think the movement they've included in this watch means it's actually pretty good value. Now the eagle-eyed amongst you will no doubt have noticed differences in the bezels. The Frost, the Meteorite and the Copper all feature a 12-hour bezel. The Green, the Burnt Orange and the Forged Carbon all feature a standard 60-minute dive time bezel. So again, not only do you have to make decisions today based on which colour you like, you also have to make decisions based on which of the bezels you prefer. Alright then, 2 of these, which should I open first, left or right? Your call. Yeah, okay, I'll do the right one. So this is the new aluminium flight style case, a blessed relief for Zelos collectors whose houses must be full of those big chunky wooden ones of old. All right, what do we got here? We have got a Forged Carbon one. That looks gorgeous. A little bit of orange here and there, and this one features the dive time 60-minute bezel. All right then, as this is an unboxing, let's peel off some stickers. Big one on the clasp for us to enjoy. And one covering the dial as well. There we go. Look at that. Zelos were the first brand that I encountered. I think they were the first brand on the market to do a Forged Carbon dial and then a Forged Carbon bezel insert as well. Now we look like we're 11:15 at night, so I'll just give this one a bit of a wind. Fire up the movement. So this new movement, La Joux Perret G100, is designed to be a drop-in replacement for ETA 2824 clones. So the ETA 2824, Sellita 200, STP 111, etc. There we are, it's fired up. Let me just wind it past. There we go, date clicks over at midnight. Get it down to 10 AM, the watch reviewer's favourite time of day. Yeah, and squeeze that one back in. Very interesting movement. I will obviously talk about it at length a little later on. Let's have a look inside the other box. Okay, I promise I've not had a sneak peek. I'm guessing if they sent me the Forged Carbon with the dive time bezel, this is going to be one of the 3 colour variants with the 60-click bezel. That would make sense, wouldn't it? Indeed, it's the Copper. And wow, they are not kidding. It's not just copper tone. It actually looks like it is made of copper. It's got that kind of feathery, organic touch to it as well. Really, really interesting. And there we go. Yep, 60-click bi-directional bezel. Okay, again, let's peel the stickers. The one on the clasp, just because it's so satisfying. And finally the dial protector. There we go, peeled and revealed. Now, because this one is going to be slightly last minute today, I'm not going to give it the full review treatment, but I will take some macro footage outdoor, which I will seamlessly slip into the review at this point of that dial, because I suspect it is going to look just ridiculous with a little bit of sunshine on it. You tell me, leave me a comment, what do you think of that? I've never seen a copper dial quite like this one before. And one final sticker to peel off before I get these two sized up and ready for action. Rather important sticker today, it's the case back protector. So sapphire sandwich, sapphire in the front, sapphire in the back, and that is a Le Jeux Perret G100, and that is very attractive. Alright, I'm back, sized and ready to go, and I shot that little bit of outdoor macro footage that you saw briefly. I also shot a loom video, so I will show you a loom video of both watches in just a minute or two, but first let's go through the basics. Dimensions, 40mm in diameter, bang on 12mm thick. One of the benefits of not using a Seiko NH movement is that you can make your 200-meter divers quite slim. 47 lug to lug, 20mm lug width, tapering down to 17.5, back up to 20 at the fairly chunky Zelos clasp, and sized up for me, 7-inch wrist. It weighs in exactly 150 grams, right on that stainless steel sports watch sweet spot. So 316L stainless steel all round. Now it is coated, so it is hardened, not necessarily scratch proof, but at least more scratch resistant than it would be if it wasn't. 200 meters of water resistant screw down crown. I've already talked about the sapphire sandwich, and it seems to have a decent amount of anti-reflective undercoating. I took it outside and it did okay for itself. That is a ceramic bezel insert, fully loomed. I'll show you the loom in a bit. And on this model we do have a 60 click bi-directional bezel. Now that means you can track a second time zone. So it's 10 o'clock in the first time zone. If you want to track a time zone that's 2 hours ahead, there we are. It's just after midday in your second time zone. So a couple of options, one for divers and one for travelers with this range. The standard of case finish is as nice as I've seen on any stainless steel Zelos. Very samurai-esque case, but they've added curves to the angles. So we have a semi-guarded crown, Zelos sign crown obviously. We have quite sharply downturned lugs, but they also have a curve to them. And there's a high polish chamfer running all the way along the upper edge and all the way along the lower edge as well, meaning it's going to be nice and comfortable on wrist. Nice machining in that bezel too. The bracelet's nice as well, reminds me a lot of the bracelet on the Formex Essence, which is definitely a bracelet that you want to be associated with. Female end lengths means it's going to wear well, especially with 47 lug to lug. Mostly brushed upper surfaces, but there is a high polished chamfer to those edges. Get your 1mm screwdrivers out for this one. Screw links, I had no problems getting them apart though, and nice and smooth to the touch. Now the class should be familiar if you've seen any Zelos over the last couple of years. They use this one on pretty much all their models. Milled upper, milled lower. High polished chamfered edge matching the chamfered edge on the edge of the bracelet. You've got the Zelos logo embossed there, slightly recessed down the centre. Double security pushers, milled lower, milled upper as discussed, and it is on the fly adjustable. So this is it all the way out. It ratchets on the way in. You can hear that there, and use your thumb, and there we are. You've got about a link and a bit, just under a centimetre of adjustment. It's better in stainless steel than in titanium, by the way. This one I think is the nicest action of any of the Zelos class. Perhaps they have spent a little more time on this one and refined it a little bit, which is good because, to be honest, it needed a touch of extra refinement. Screw on stainless steel case back, but the star of the show is behind that piece of sapphire today. It's the Le Jeux Perret G100. Now, Le Jeux Perret are a Swiss assembler and manufacturer of movements. They started business in the early 1990s, but since 2012 they have been part of the Citizen Group, so now under Japanese ownership. They have provided work or movements directly to the likes of Hublot, Panerai, Montblanc, Baume & Mercier, Girard-Perregaux, so they do have a fair old reputation. They make a range of about half a dozen movements in their own right. This is their first entry-level movement, and as I said, this is the first watch that I've seen it in. 24 jewel hacking and hand winding. The big plus of this one though is a 68-hour power reserve. We've seen this kind of push towards big power reserves, starting with Rolex, Tudor, even Seiko doing it, Oris, now filtering into the wonderful world of micro brands with this Le Jeux Perret G100. It should be noted that this particular movement, the one in the back of the spearfish, is a Soigné grade. That is the equivalent of an elaborate grade, adjusted to 4 positions and with stated tolerances of plus or minus 7 per day, with a maximum positional variance of plus or minus 20 seconds per day.
let's pop this one on the time grapher and see how it does. It does all right, doesn't it? As I said, adjusted and regulated to 4 positions, plus or minus 7. This one coming in pretty much bang on. So a 51-degree lift angle for this movement, 28,800 vibrations per hour. So you still get that smooth sweep. Unlike the Powermatic 80, which slows the beat rate down to achieve that big power reserve, this one doesn't. Therefore, you get the high beat rate, the smooth sweep. You also get the big power reserve. But the fact that Les Jeux Perret are now owned by Citizen did get me thinking. Now it is a lovely looking movement. That I believe is an anodized tungsten rotor, hence the kind of dark grey colour. There's some lovely Geneva striping on there and also on the rest of the movement. Has a familiar look to it though, doesn't it? See those 3 big screws holding the rotor onto the movement? Yeah, looks a lot like a Miyota 9000 series. Now as mentioned, this G100 was designed as a drop-in replacement for the ETA 2824, etc, 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 whereas the Citizen Miyota 9015 was not, but you just wonder if perhaps there's a little bit of shared architecture between them, especially when I do this. It only winds in one direction, just like the Citizen. Now that does mean you're going to get a little bit of wobble, and you're also going to get a little bit of extra noise compared to a bi-directional wind movement. That's the only fly in the ointment for this one. It looks great, it performs really well, and that power reserve is fantastic. I reckon we'll see this in a lot of other watches in the future. I reckon they're all going to cost significantly more than the $650 of the Zelos Spearfish. On wrist it wears very nicely indeed. The dimensions, the proportions, the weight, etc. is pretty much spot on. It is a large clasp. That does help to balance the thing out, and look at that lovely dial. I'm concentrating on the copper because it is far nicer than I thought it was going to be, far nicer than any other copper dial watch that I've seen in the past. But there you are. If you're a fan of the forged carbon, then that's what it looks like. Interestingly, both of the watches have gone for a kind of lemon yellow, a pale yellow colour on the fill for the Arabics, etc. on the bezel inserts. Interesting, I think it suits the copper slightly better than it suits the carbon, to be honest. It might have actually looked better in white or even orange to match the second hand on this particular model. Overhead legibility is okay. That will obviously depend on which of the models you go for though. If you're after maximum legibility, you can't really go wrong with the Frost variant, which is the white dial with black anodized hands. This one though, the handset on all of them, kind of cathedral almost. There's quite a lot of metal here, not an awful lot of lume. That does have repercussions when it comes to nighttime use. And there is the lume shot. It's obviously the copper toned 12-hour bezel on the left and the forged carbon dive style 60-minute bezel on the right. Initial glow is excellent and a little Zelos signature. They always use a little bit of two-tone. Here it's only the second hand that actually has a second colour. The rest of it looks like C3 to me. When I crank the speed up though, you see what I mean? The minute hand, there's more metal than lume there. It fades a little bit quicker than I would have liked to have seen. It's okay, but it's not the best lume from a Zelos. Let's do a mini moans and niggles section underneath a macro montage to wrap things up then. I complain about the 1-year warranty. Nobody else seems to care about the 1-year warranty, but I'm going to complain about it again today. That lemon yellow bezel insert is across the range. Every model, I think it looks better on some than on others. And the fact that that lovely looking movement only winds in one direction does take the shine off of it somewhat for me anyway. I'm not a particular fan of hearing the watch on my wrist. I prefer my watches to be silent. Some people enjoy that interaction. They like to feel it. They like to hear it. I'm not one of those, so do bear that in mind. Plus, it is a new movement. It only launched last year. There is some inherent risk, therefore, being a pioneer and picking up a new product in its early days. But I'm sure they've done their testing. They're a well-renowned company. And if there is a little bit of Citizen in the architecture of this one, then it is already well proven. So on balance, it's not cheap, but it's another refined and well-manufactured product by Zelos that I'm sure will sell out in a matter of hours, if not minutes, despite the fact that they're pushing halfway between $500 and $1,000 for these. Zelos hold their value extraordinarily well. You can almost speculate on some of the more hot colorways. So even if you think it's expensive, it still represents good value, given that somebody will pay just about what you paid if you do decide to sell it in 6, 12 or 18 months time. And it's always nice to see something different, another movement, a brand new movement in a sub $1,000 watch. It'll be really interesting to see whether this one starts popping up in other micros in future, whether we even see it in some Swiss brands as well, being that it is Swiss made after all.
So there you have it, the new Zelos Spearfish. If you are keen on one of these, get in quickly because they do sell out rapidly, the more popular colourways anyway. If you don't fancy this one, why not check out a couple of older reviews, the Swordfish in titanium, which I really enjoyed, or the Horizons GMT. Thanks for watching, see you again soon.